Everything you need to know about products and services that can improve your life. This is Experts on Call on CL 650.
Our house is a very, very, very fine house with 2 cats in the
Hey, and welcome back to StrataLife. We're talking about looking after your strata, maintaining it, and managing it. We have from Key Pacific Property Management, Drew Grout here, Gordon Lai from CMW Insurance, and we just heard Randy Gordon in the last segment talking about boilers. He's a technician at Ashton Service Group. And during the break, because we were talking about boilers and repairs and what needs to be fixed, Gordon, you mentioned that there might be boiler insurance. How does that work?
Like on all these, on the strata policies we provide, generally there's a called boiler machinery coverage. And that's, a lot of people ask, what is that? And what it is designed to do is that it's to provide coverage for, of course, if the boiler explodes. And fundamentally, that's what the design of policy for. But with these modern policy, it's also designed to provide coverage for sudden accidental breakage.
Catastrophic failure of the system, right?
Not from wear and tear. But that's very hard to define for the average person, like even myself. So usually, if we get a call and says, hey, our boiler's broken, the tank's cracked, is that covered under insurance? So usually I'll say, it depends on the age of the tank. If a tank is supposed to last, say, 20 years well-maintained and it's cracked after 5 years and just fell off the warranty period, then I would say, keep the tank, have it replaced right away if you need to, and we'll get an adjuster to take a look at it. Because if that's sudden accidental where it's cracked, then it's covered.
So what happens if the boiler lets loose and you have water everywhere in the mechanical room, and that's insurance?
That's a property part of it,
right,
that replaces that. But we have electrical failures in boilers. There's usually
control units,
and those could fail, prematurely. But right after, of course, the warranty is over, there's coverage for that, or whether it's from a power surge. But what I think the main thing is that if you're not sure, give us a call, and then usually what we'll do is that we ask, wait for the adjuster, or if it's emergency, have it repaired, but keep the parts and have the technician, write a report on what happened.
Or lots of photos too.
And photos, yes, absolutely. And then we'll determine, and I think, I was talking to Drew in the break, and he's at where there's coverage, and they weren't sure, and afterwards, there's a few $1,000s that the strata's getting covered for.
It was an electrical thing in the townhouse. Somebody said, I have no power, and usually we push back, and that's an owner issue, but it was determined that they weren't getting power to their box, and going through a process involving BC Hydro and the equipment I think they called the thumper, we discovered the cable that went under the road was compromised, and lo and behold, Strata's insurance covered the excavation and repair of that line.
But wouldn't that be BC Hydro's? I guess it was on the property side.
Yes.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And they don't install those things.
Oh.
They were there because they have the equipment. Actually, the electrical company who had involved got in touch with them because they have the equipment to locate these underground breaks and lines. And it was kind of interesting. But the important thing is that it was a several $1,000 job, and the Strata insurance covered it. It's synonymous with some of the mechanical stuff that can happen.
Yeah.
So,
I think a lot of people on the mechanical, what I find is that they don't even know there's such insurance, so they don't really. We don't get the reports of it.
Well, they're just there to do the job, right?
Yes.
To get it fixed.
And the unit owners, I still want my hot water back. And it's done, and then bills pays as a maintenance. But there's a fine line between maintenance and whether it's premature. I guess it's like a car warranty, right? Like, you got manufacturer.
Well, yeah,
is it a wear and tear, or is it under warranty?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, that's that fine line. And you would need somebody to write a report that would be beneficial towards getting the insurance to cover it. You say this was abnormal breakage. This isn't something we see typically, those sorts of things, right?
We write reports like that all the time. We're asked to go in and give us a full report on where, when, why, and how that this has happened.
And I think most insurance companies will rely on your report because the adjuster themselves are not
boiler experts.
Boiler experts with that much experience. They're going to read the report and say, well, what does it? How to interpret it? If they don't know, they'll come back and ask and say, hey, Randy, with the sentence, like exactly, what do you mean? Like
so that claim inquiry would start with the strata manager.
Yes.
Property management company.
Go to property management
with your input. They go, this could be a covered item. We'd contact guys like Gordon and say, look, here's what's happened. Is this an insurable claim?
Mm-hmm.
And they'd say, yeah, go for it. And then we provide all the data and information and the wherewithal.
That's why you have a company that manages your property.
So in that role, we're the go-between between these two guys. We help gather the information, convey it, and back and forth toward getting the problem solved.
Now, with regular maintenance of a boiler, because it's so important to everybody in the building, whether you're going to have heat or hot water, if you maintain a boiler correctly, as you're saying, quarterly, going through a full checklist and doing it, can you typically spot a boiler before it goes? Or even with all of that, can they still let loose?
Some things are still an act of God, right? We'll say.
But act of God isn't covered by insurance.
Don't say that.
Okay.
That wasn't in the report. I don't know.
Yeah, it does sometimes happen that we go in and we do a preventive maintenance, and the very next day the boiler is pouring on the floor.
Right.
Our checklist that we go through, we're not stripping it down right to the bare bones, unless we have a reason. But
your odds are better if you're maintaining it regularly.
Absolutely.
You're going to see something before it happens.
We're going to see something, and another thing, the point that we haven't talked about here really is when we're doing preventive maintenance, we're also building a history.
Yeah.
And sometimes we'll go there and we're replacing this pump for the 4th time in a year. And now we go back and we see, okay, we've replaced this pump 4 times in this year. There's got to be something going on, and there's got to be a bigger picture here. Mm-hmm. And that's where history is good for everything, as well as, I guess, probably for the insurance side of things, too, being able to go back and say, this is the history of that piece of equipment.
I've seen the reports of adjusters, and, where that good maintenance program help because, they look at it, is that caused by wear and tear? Well,
there's been eyeballs on it every 3 months for
and
the last.
wear and tear parts are being replaced.
Yeah.
So what's broken, it's pretty well sudden accidental. Versus if you get a adjuster going in, it's like 10-year-old building, nothing's ever been done on it. Mm-hmm. You can say, well, absolutely, this is not like sudden accidental. This is
neglect. Yeah.
This is neglect, and of course it's going to wear out.
Now, Drew, in the last few minutes here, because you're kind of the middle guy here with Key Pacific Property Management. So what is your advice when it comes to maintenance, insurance, and bylaws? A kind of a wrap up here as we get up against the clock.
Maintenance, agree totally with Randy. We support the sort of activities he's described. It's absolutely necessary. Bylaws, a lot of what we talked about today with the owners, individual owners, relates to their understanding of the bylaws and also the council's understanding of the bylaws. Mm-hmm. So often they want to take action, but what have they violated? It's not in the bylaws, so we can't enforce something that doesn't exist. Mm-hmm. And when it comes down to property damage, and of course the chargeback of the insurance deductibles falls right into the coverage that insurers will provide them. So
read the bylaws.
Read the bylaws. Check your insurance. And
make sure
you got a mechanical company looking after your equipment.
Absolutely. Well, let's run through the list here. Key Pacific Property Management, that was Drew Grout. You just heard Gordon Lai, Client Executive and Vice President of CMW Insurance, and Randy Gordon, first timer. You can't say that now. You've done a radio show now.
I have. So.
Well done, too, by the way. He's a technician at Ashton Service Group. Thank you all for being on StrataLife, and we'll have you back again.
Thank you.
That's it for this edition of Experts on Call. I'm Tax Spencer, and you're listening to CL 650.